Okay, here's another example of function transformation. In this case, we are going to have the parent rational function of 1 over x. So as usual, we are going to use the order of operation PEMDAS, and we are going to write one transformation at a time for each of these three transformations. So starting with the parentheses, are we going to have anything inside the parentheses with the x? Well, let's say inside the parentheses, as always, represents either translating to the left or to the right, but since we don't have any horizontal translation, so only the x stays inside the parentheses, so we're done with that. Exponent, we don't have anything in this case. Multiplication, well, yeah, we do, because we are supposed to shrink the graph of 1 over x by a factor of 2, so for this, inside a function with the x, we're supposed to multiply this parentheses that has the x by 2. And remember that when we do horizontal stretch or compress, if we want to do horizontal stretch, we have to make sure, not stretch, shrink. We have to make sure that the number has to be greater than 1. So what I meant to say is that if we are supposed to shrink the graph of this parent rational function by a factor of 2, of course the number has to be greater than 1. So in this case we do have 2. So yeah. So that's one transformation done. Now we are also reflecting about the y-axis. So that's another multiplication besides the 2 that we have to do. Well, all we have to do is that we just multiply this thing by the minus sign. And that's second transformation done. Now the last one is translating down by 4 units, so we take this whole thing and just subtract 4 from it. So the function that represents all of these three transformations is f of x equals 1 over negative 2 times x, and then all of this minus 4. Now when we graph it, of course we graph the parent function 1 over x first. Now recall that the graph of 1 over x has two parts in it. And this is 1, this is 1, this is negative 1, and this is negative 1. Hopefully you can see that, okay? The first part, the one on the right, is going to look something like this, okay? So that's a little too skinny, but you know what I mean. Like that, okay? So this part here is 1 over x. Now, the first transformation that we have to graph is horizontally shrink by a factor of 2. So if we shrink it by a factor of 2, it's still going to be this same graph, but it's going to look a little thinner. So probably somewhere inside here. And yeah, something like that, okay? And notice that both part of the graph approaches the x-axis and the y-axis, but they're actually not touching them. So this one in the blue is 1 over 2 to the x. Okay. Now for the next transformation, which is reflecting across the y-axis, we take the most recent one in the blue and we just make a mirror image across the y-axis. So this part in the blue end up over here, and this part in the blue down here end up over here. So it's probably going to look something like this. Like that. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Yep, so the one in red here is the mirror image of the one in the blue. So this is 1 over negative 2 times x inside the parentheses. Lastly, we're supposed to take the most recent graph and just move that whole thing down by 4. So let's say, now notice that the one in the red, it has the horizontal asymptotes at the x-axis. So if we move it down by 4 units, so that means the horizontal asymptote is going to be at y equal negative 4. So the horizontal asymptotes go from y being 0, which is just the entire x-axis, down to being y equal to negative 4 in the green. So just draw another copy of the one in the red, but down here. So it's still gonna look like the one in red, but now it's gonna look something like that in the green. So let's say, okay. And also, you know, because this is a rough sketch, so it looks like the graph is touching the asymptotes, but they are actually not. And yeah, that is how we graph this. So I do apologize if the graph is a little too small, but the one in the green, forgot to write it, is this f of x function. 1 over -2 times x, and then all of this minus 4.